7:43. Sorry for the delay, everybody, and we are now live.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. We are now being recorded. All right, roll call. Tom Fickner.
Aye.
Jack McClellan, Board of Health Administrator, here.
Alan Greenberg, Chairman, here. All right, good and welfare for the public. Anyone in the public have anything they would like to state related to the Board of Health?
Nobody else is online.
All right, nothing at this time. We'll go right to new business. Lake Nipmuc Task Force update, please.
Well, unfortunately, Joyce Gilmore is unable to attend the meeting tonight, so that's going to have to be forwarded to the next meeting.
All right. Mendon waste collection disposal discussion.
All right, so at the last meeting, you were looking for numbers for last fiscal year for trash. And this is what I have figured out. So for wheel operator for fiscal year 2024, we have budgeted $138,000. We have spent $123,920.65, leaving a balance of $14,079.35.
Okay.
For EL Harvey collection for trash and recycling, we had a budget amount for $502,050. We spent $500,336.04, leaving a balance of $1,713.96.
Okay, I'm gonna take it that the difference that we're in the black has to do with the variable number for the recycling cost.
The recycling cost, how much tonnage was received in for the town, and also for the trash tonnage as well. So depending on how much tonnage was received in, what I forecasted for fiscal year 2024, I forecasted more than what was actually received in. So that's why we have extra money.
So when I follow this all the way down to 28,583.31.
Yes, so for the subscribers, for all trash subscribers, I did a KVS payment report. So I started the payment report at May 4th, 2023, which was the day before the new billing was sent out, and ended the payment billing of 5/6/2024, which was the day before for the next billing for the full year fiscal year. That total payment report came in at $654,894. Trash sticker money received in was $2,196 for a total of $657,090. Again, using that total that we received in, total spent was $628,506.69, which covers the trash collection, the trash disposal, and the trash administration, which leaves us in the black of $28,583.31.
Which doesn't go back to the subscribers at this time.
It does not. It goes to free cash.
Well, again, that's we're talking about numbers. We're not actually talking about real dollars. We're talking about numbers against what was budgeted.
Oh, no,
Right?
that's
We're
real,
talking-
that's real
That's real
cash.
money.
That's real money.
That's real money.
That's real cash.
That's real cash.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's the issue that we've had over a number of years, and why we've tried to correct that.
Yeah.
With the enterprise account, so that all those monies go back to the subscribers.
And so what brings up a question, are we over budgeting?
Well, we're cutting it. I mean, that's a small percentage of the total,
Yeah, true.
right? I mean, how close can you cut it?
Right. You don't want to, I know we try to get to the quote unquote zero, but you never want to be on the minus, right? You always want to be on the plus.
And there are some variables like the cost of recycling, the tonnage, that fluctuates.
Yeah, as you can see for recycling, in August, the highest was $128 for that month, and the lowest was June. So last month for $92.
So where are you looking, Jack?
On EL Harvey, the yellow column where it says rate. That's what
Okay, yeah.
in the red
Yeah.
numbers, that's what the recycling weight was per ton.
And you were just referencing which month?
The highest was in August 2022,
Okay, yeah,
which was $128 per ton for recycling alone. And the lowest was $92, which was just last month. And E.L. Harvey said the average would be $110 per ton.
yeah, we're in, well, aren't we just in our second year of the contract with E.L. Harvey?
Yeah, we just started our second year.
So
But now we pay for recycling. Recycling is not free and
Right.
it's not a fixed dollar amount.
what I'm getting at is the new contract started in July
Last year.
of 23.
Yeah, this is going back a year. This is the previous year.
No, what I'm getting at is that we didn't start getting charged recycling until the new contract went into play.
Yeah, and it's been in effect. We've already gone through one.
Yeah, so fiscal year 2023, we're in fiscal year 2024 now. So we're in our second year with E.L. Harvey.
Right, but I say you had August 2022.
Fiscal year of 2023 ends of the year of June. So therefore, July 2022 starts fiscal year 2023.
The calendar
fiscal
year
year
and the
calendar.
fiscal year are different.
They are, but I thought physically, from an actual implementation standpoint, we started with the E.L. Harvey contract a year ago, July 1.
No, but we're in our second year now.
So it actually started July 1, 2022,
Correct.
physically. Okay, wow. Where the hell did that time go?
So
Okay. Wow.
that recycling cost is a variable.
Yeah.
All right. And the tonnage for that recycling cost is a variable.
Yeah.
And then when you go over to the wheelabrator, it's a fixed amount as far as the rate to burn the trash.
Yeah.
But the tonnage is a variable.
Yeah.
So that's where you come up. We're using past history averages to come up with our budgetary number.
Right, well, so you just used the magic word there, the budget. So we're using numbers to determine our budget. So that's why I'm not quite understanding how it's really relates to real money as opposed to budgeted.
Because we collect the money during the course of the year and we spend the money during the course of the year.
Yep.
So there's either going to be an under or an over.
So this, you're saying this physically represents
And
what we
this-
collected.
More than what we
physically
spent.
Correct.
Not just against what was budgeted.
No,
Okay.
no, because what we were budgeted, again, I budgeted for 138,000. Really, I only needed, if we were trying to go to zero balance, 124,000.
Okay,
If I was trying to do a zero balance, and E.L. Harvey's, the contract is going to be pretty much close to zero anyway, because that's a fixed number for trash collection. It's just the recycling that we have to worry about for the fluctuation of the rates and the
I got it.
tonnage.
so we took in a
So
lot.
they gave us, again, we're using history to come up with those tonnages.
Right.
There's just a lot of variables.
No,
And-
I
and
understand that.
We end up with real money surplus every year.
Right.
Now, some years it's smaller than this, and some years, as we know from talking with the finance committee, there were big numbers.
Well, this seems like the biggest number that I've seen in quite a while. This is
Well,
compared to what,
yeah,
the last
we
5,
can
6
look
years.
back, but you gotta remember, again, this is the first year that we have had to pay for recycling.
Right.
The previous contract, we had a fixed number
correct.
for that 3 and 2, that
Yep.
5-year period.
Yep.
This is the first year that we were fortunate that E.L. Harvey gave us a best guess estimate on what the cost would be per ton
Yeah, 110, I believe, right?
and gave us some numbers based on past tonnage.
Yep.
But I mean, there's two variables there to try to come up with a number and not come up too short. So, I mean, and out of the total to have 28 left over, you know, that's
That's a lot.
pretty close. It's a lot of money when it doesn't stay in the subscriber's pocket.
No, I know what you're saying. In the scheme of things, it's a low percentage, but in dollars,
How close can we do it?
well, in real dollars, that's a sizable amount of money.
you know?
Okay. Well,
I mean, especially on the, E.L. Harvey side, when you look at, it's only 1,700 over.
right.
I mean, 1,700 out of 500 and something, $502,000.
Can't do any better than that.
I tried.
Okay, but again, the whole reason we went down the road for that enterprise account is to try to turn that 28,000 back to the subscribers.
Right.
Because it's their money.
Yep. Okay.
Even on the other side, I mean, you take 14,000 out of 138. I mean, it's a larger percentage, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's what, 10%?
Yes.
But there's no way of knowing how much people are going to throw away. Now, it's very possible that because we went to the TOTA program, that our tonnage went down, but we know our rate to burn it goes up. So we're constantly trying to balance those things and not get caught with our pants down.
Wow.
So, I mean, I think that's pretty close
Well, that's
when you
only
look at
gonna,
the total number.
I mean, it only amplifies the benefit what enterprise fund is gonna do for us moving forward. What it's gonna do for the residents, actually, not for
For
us,
subscribers.
for the subscribers.
Okay, so those are my numbers.
All right, very good.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
And I think you did a great job because you can't cut it too much closer than that. All right. All right, let's go through the minutes to the previous meetings.
Did you want to post that until Joyce is back?
I think I think I'm on. Am I on?
You're on, but in order for you to vote online, you have to be seen. So a video of your face has to be seen.
Okay, let's see. How do I do that?
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Hey, there's the pretty lady.
All right,
So Joyce Gilmore is here.
all right,
OMG.
Joyce. Welcome.
OMG.
All right, so we're gonna go to the minutes of previous meetings,
Yep.
which we all had in our homework packet.
Yep.
So we're gonna go to January 10th of 2024. I didn't have any issues with that. Tom? How did you feel about January 10th, 2024?
It was a wonderful time of year. No, that was fine.
Joyce, how about you? January 10th, 2024?
Yeah, I was good with that. I looked through the whole thing, read it and all, and said, "Oh my gosh, that was a long time ago."
It was. Good reading. Okay, so we'll take a vote to approve the minutes for January 10th, 2024. Tom,
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for January 10th, 2024.
all in favor?
I
Aye. All right, we're gonna move to January 24th of 2024. The only thing I noted was that form that you worked on to the keeping of the animals.
Yes.
I circled that. That was great that we covered it, and that's going out in the census.
Yes.
Fantastic. Joyce, any comments on January 24th?
No, I didn't see any problems with that. I would approve it.
All right, Tom?
No issues.
All right, let's have a motion to approve the minutes for January 24th.
Joyce, you're up.
So move. I make a
I'll make the
motion.
I'll make that
Okay.
motion to approve those minutes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2024. Again, I made a little check mark on the keeping of livestock reporting. Joyce, any comments on February 14th of 2024?
No, I didn't see anything that struck out.
Tom,
No issues.
can I have a motion, Joyce, please?
I make a motion that we accept the 2024 for, as, as read,
February 14th,
February
2024.
14th. Yep, as read.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're moving on to February 28th. I had no comments on that. Joyce,
No, I had nothing on that either,
Tom?
Nothing.
except that
All
I
right.
was freezing in the library.
Good
Sorry.
memory. Okay, can we have a motion, please, to accept the minutes for February 28th of 24?
So I'll
I
make
make
the
a
motion
motion-
to
oh.
accept,
Go ahead.
I'll make that motion to accept the meeting minutes for February 28th, 2024.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Joyce.
Second
All
as
in
well.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You get the next one, Joyce.
All right, we're at March 13th of 2024. But he was there. I have no comments on that.
No,
Tom?
I have,
Joyce?
no, I have
right.
none either. I move that
All
we
right.
accept the minutes of 2024, March 13th.
And that's at 6:30 PM, because there are two minutes.
Yes, this is the one for 6:30. I'm sorry.
Correct.
you.
Yep, I got it. Yep.
I'll second
I'm-
that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, same date, but now we're moving to the 7:30 meeting, March 13th, 2024. I have no comments on that. Tom,
No comments?
Joyce,
No comments.
can we have a motion, please?
I
I'll
make a motion, okay, Tom, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes for the second meeting minutes that started at 7:30 PM on March 13th, 2024.
Joyce,
So, second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You get the next one, Joyce.
Okay,
All right, March 27th, 2024.
I didn't see a problem.
All right, I didn't see anything either.
I make a
No,
motion,
no
we
comments.
accept the, oops, Tom?
Oh, go ahead. I had no comments.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes of March 27th, 2024 as read.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. April 10th, 2024. I think the only thing that I noticed, and it was just good to see how well that trash down at Providence Street on the Eversource property
Issue,
was
yeah.
resolved.
Right.
So nothing negative.
No,
Can we have a motion?
Tom?
Oh, I'll make the motion to accept the meeting minutes for April 20, April 10th? is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
April 10th, 2024.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to April 24th, 2024.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes from April 24th, 2024 as read.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Gets the housekeeping out of the way.
The general comment I would have is that my name always has an N in it.
What happened? Did I spell your last name wrong?
On a few spots, yeah.
I'll go through and do a word search.
Federico. Yeah. Come on up, make yourself comfortable. All right, so next item is 114 Millville Street, local upgrade approval.
Tom Ryder, where'd you go?
He's back.
Oh, there he is.
I am searching high and low for some files, but go ahead.
All right, so the board has in front of them, Tom Ryder, the Board of Health Engineers, approval for the local upgrade request. He has no comment or objection for the local upgrade approval if the following conditions are met. For 114 Millville Street, the total combined design flow for both lots is restricted to 440 gallons per day. A deed restriction recording will be required before disposal works construction permit is issued for the lot known as 114 Millville Road as a one-bedroom structure. The disposal works construction permit on the proposed septic system includes the disconnection from the existing system, and as-built of both systems, 112 and 114 Millville Road, will be required. We do have Tom Ryder on the meeting tonight and a representative for the property here as well.
Just if you could just identify yourself.
Yeah, sure, no problem. For the record, John Federico with Guerrier and Hellnon. And then just to recap, representing tonight Determination Inc. and the project at 114 Millville. Since Tom is essentially issuing an approval for that, I'm more than happy to cover anything that was a part of our resubmittal package, unless the board wanted to ask any specific questions there. If not, as far as the conditions that were brought forward, we have no issues with those conditions.
Okay, I will make a statement. I have a relationship with Gary Aaron Halnon. I'm their longtime landscaping contractor. Nobody's had any issues with me speaking on this particular address in the past. If anybody has any issues now, they may speak and I will step aside.
I have no issues.
All right, we're all
I
good.
have no issues as well.
All right, thank you. This is pretty cut and dry based on Tom Ryder's recommendations as our engineer. So we just need to have a vote.
Correct.
All right.
Well, one question I just had, and it's more of a validation. So with regard to the conditions, which I'm assuming you folks are fine with,
Yes,
the
correct.
fact of them, where does the responsibility lie for each of those conditions to be implemented? Just for my own edification.
Board of Health.
Well, specifically, so for example, obviously the first one with the design flow, that's in the design plan, right? The deed restriction, is that something that you're
I believe it
overseeing?
has to go to the Worcester Registry of Deeds.
So it's.
Tom Ryder, go ahead, Tom Ryder.
So we have a standard language that was developed, the DEP developed it years ago. I can forward that off. So it has a few blanks where the applicant will have to fill it in and, you know, put in the deed where the title is located and sign it with the notary and then give it to the Board of Health for signature, and then they record it, and then they prove that they recorded it.
Okay, great.
And it could just be a representative of the Board of Health, but it has to be the owner of record for the restriction.
Yeah, so
Oh.
no final approvals are signed off on until all that is filed.
Yeah, COC is not issued until I get the deed restriction. I give it to Tom Ryder for his final approval.
Okay, I was just curious where specifically that responsibility lied.
Yeah.
You know, personnel wise. Okay.
And if I may ask, just for my own clarity here, would we be able to pull any like construction permits for the system prior to that deed restriction being recorded, or would you need to have that information prior to the release of any permits?
Tom Ryder?
We should have that prior to the disposal works construction. We can approve the plan, but before you get the construction permit, you should have that in order, so we're not chasing after people.
Completely understood. We'll make sure we get that back over to you folks.
All right.
Good question.
If you could please forward any information, either myself or Dale, we'll make sure that we get that taken care of for you folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so
I'll
anything else?
email
Tom
that
Ryder?
tonight. Yeah, I'll email that tonight over to Jack so he can see it and then forward off.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not going to vote on this issue. Just because of our relationship, not that my vote is needed. So I'll just, I need a motion to approve it.
Okay.
I need a second and then a vote. So
I'll
can I
make
have
a motion to, to approve the plan as we just reviewed.
All right, so the local upgrade request for 114 Millville Street.
And I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks all so much. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for your patience.
No worries at all. Do you folks need any extra copies of the plan or anything? I do have one extra. In
Nope,
case.
that's good. Thank you, though.
That's
Right.
probably the last thing Jack probably wants to have.
Yeah.
More paper.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
No, you're very welcome.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Next one is 4B.
Yep, 1 North Ave, site plan review and comments. So this is our bank strip mall, right?
Yeah, some retail.
Yeah.
So Tom Ryder, I know that you sent an email earlier about it, but didn't know if you had any more comments about the 1 North Ave project, site plan review?
Yeah, so familiar with the site. I mean, it's, I thought they're gonna build a gas station like 10 years ago over there. Is that correct? And
Are you
then
thinking
since-
147 Hartford Avenue East?
I'm thinking right at the intersection of 16
In North Avenue, yeah.
North Ave. Yeah, is that true? Was that like
I never heard that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can't say I recall that either.
Back
Oh.
in the day, they were looking at a business.
It wasn't
Plan.
CVS at one point.
It was
Oh, maybe it was a CVS. Or
You're
yeah.
right. Cumberland Farms was looking at it and there was a problem with the distance to the well.
Yeah.
That's what it was. You're right, Tom.
Yeah.
Cumberland Farms had looked at it either before or after CVS looked at it.
And I think, isn't that what caused them to end up down in Hopedale, further down,
Well, they were always down there,
even when they were looking at this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
but it was distance to the well because with the gas station,
Yeah.
that area surrounding the well, I forget what it is, 50 feet, 90 feet has to be protected. And they would have had to acquire land from the town
Okay.
in order to do that. Good memory, Tom Ryder.
Yeah, sometimes it works.
So,
So
Well, I was just gonna say, did I hear you correctly, Jack, that you said Tom sent an email?
Yeah, he sent an email that says that the only comments that he really had was no soil testing information to have, and just also proposed retail expectations on the wastewater flows and well water issues. So until we actually have plans in hand, there's really no much commentary to it.
No,
Yeah,
understood. I wasn't aware that we had that
Oh, yeah.
in hand, so
Yeah.
I didn't know. What
yeah,
is this?
they indicate retail. I still really don't know what they mean retail by. I mean, is it going to be like just storefronts, or is it going to be actual service of food? You know, or any capacity? So I guess that it depends on what they mean by retail. So that could trigger more items under the well for the well and for the septic. So I mean, if there's any expectations that's going to be grease flows, then they should be ready to put in grease traps and an outside grease trap as well. So kind of
those-
remains to be seen.
Well, do those things that you just raised, then, should they be part of commentary at this point as well? Because we actually don't know what the retail will be.
Yeah,
I would say,
Right? I would think that makes sense, right?
Yeah, because that could they may not know who's moving in. They may not have that person who's going to lease or purchase that section of the building. So if they do know, they should tell us. And but they should understand that if they're coming in with a potential service to food, then there's going to be there could be a permit to have a kitchen, or or if they're serving food that requires potable water, then it could trigger some more permit requirements of the state. So
it kind of makes sense to have things like that. Anything where I think we can kind of inform and advance the planning board as the plans being reviewed helps, not only helps them, but it also helps the applicant.
Right, and maybe
Right.
the applicant could state, even if they don't know who the tenants are yet.
Right.
If the applicant were to state that there would be no food service type businesses, then that would eliminate the provisions for grease traps, et cetera.
That'd help
So-
us. Yeah.
They may be able to identify what they wouldn't put in there. You know, that would affect the septic and the well.
Yep.
And that way they don't have to define exactly who's going in there, but they would eliminate certain industries.
Well, so if, I don't know how we want to, if Tom, I don't know if Tom, if you want to send a follow-up to Jack with that kind of verbiage, and then we can kind of combine it, because I know tomorrow was the ask for the due date for commentary to be provided to the planning board.
Okay, yeah, I'll work with Jack, tomorrow. I'll send him something over.
I mean, I know that the planning board, it wouldn't be due to meet, I don't think until Monday.
I want to say, yeah, I saw next Monday coming up, yes.
So maybe technically you probably have until
2 days.
the Monday. I mean, Friday, the town hall is closed as a working day. I just don't know what Jack Hunter might need in advance.
I can always email it to him.
Yeah, if that's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, I just didn't want to press Tom if he didn't have to jump on it, say, until Friday or something.
Right.
That's fine.
Joyce, what's your thought?
I mean, I think that it needs to have some explanation of what it is and what it's going to be there, you know, it's especially stuff with, you know, all kinds of retail. What does that mean? Maybe it's going to be a woman's clothing store or something, you know? Who knows? Yeah, I think we need to have some definitive talk about what it is.
And it sounds
So-
like Tom's incorporated for you, Alan. I know the soil. I know at the last meeting you talked about the the possibility of the contamination element of soil with regard to arsenic specifically, but I think he's kind of incorporated a soil statement in that.
Yeah, it'd be the perk test for the septic system and stuff.
So that would be related to the perk test.
Mhm.
So then,
Was there a
No.
21E done on that property?
What's that?
A 21E?
which is,
It's like a,
It's a study to determine like if there's been any releases of chemicals listed in the
Contaminants, yeah.
yeah.
yeah, they do a lot with business properties,
okay.
and that essentially was a business where it was an orchard.
Yeah.
So do we know if a 21E would be required on that particular property, or if one has been done?
I don't know if a 21E has been done. Usually the banks require it before they let someone borrow money, just in case. So there's no other requirement unless there is a known spill that the DEP would impress them to do so. Like if it was known as a burn dump, like back 50 years ago, the DEP can step in and say, you need to do something, do some more evaluations but other than that, it's just the banks that force the 21E before they loan anybody money for stuff like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
So,
50 years ago, it was in fact an orchard where they were spraying the fruit trees with arsenic.
So do we have a report on file that there was a 21E?
I don't know.
Now, as far as the layout of that land, you know how we have the upper section nearest to North Ave? And then you have a dividing wall, and then you have the lower area of land. And I don't know myself, but Alan, you might, or Joyce, you might. the actual orchard itself, the area that was used, was it the area above the wall closest to North Ave, or was it the area below the wall further down 16?
Well, my thought would be all the equipment was stored, washed out, maintained on the piece of property that they're proposing this bank retail center.
Okay, right. Okay, so it's sat
So
there.
even though the trees may have not been growing on that property.
Yep.
That's where all the spraying equipment was stored,
Okay,
cleaned, maintained.
got it.
Right,
Okay,
So that's, and the close proximity to the elementary school is really what kind of triggers my thoughts.
Right.
With, whatever is there being released into the air with all our young people attending school.
okay. Yep.
So I don't know if a 21E is required. I don't know if we can request a 21E. That's the engineer, Mr. Ryder's area.
As far as requesting, yeah, I'm not sure. I guess if there's any knowledge, I have some LSP friends that I could talk to regarding what is that procedure, but I would assume that they would have actually done one. Maybe we can look up if there's a report submitted, because before anybody lets anybody borrow money, they need to make sure there's no issues with the site before they start digging. Otherwise, they could be tagged with the responsibility of like a potential cleanup that ever happens. So I could check that.
That would be an important element to have in our commentary then.
Well, that's why I brought it up at the previous meeting. I know you said the area where the senior center was going to go was deemed clean.
From what I understand, it came back as, and I probably have,
Which is encouraging.
which is encouraging. That was, just so you know, Tom, what we're referring to here, there was an area of land that abuts this particular address that we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
And that area of land is town-owned. It's a little bit further up from the corner, but it's on North Ave. And it was the area that the town is looking at to possibly build a senior community center on.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned at our last meeting that testing, I know they did some testing on that soil in that parcel because of the same concern that was raised with regard to arsenic. And as I understand it, there was 6 or 7 holes that were dug, and that particular committee had hired an engineering firm to do testing. And as I understand it, testing came back clean with respect to what they were looking for or didn't find. But again, that's a section of land that is not this specific property that's on the agenda. It happens to be land that abuts it.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. I'm not seeing anything right now. But yeah, you're talking about a little bit further up North Ave.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I'll see if I can see if there's a database. I know there is for sites that are classified, tier classified, but I'm not sure if there is a site for those that have a report, 21E report. And then generally they're for the loan purposes, they're only really good for 6 months.
Tom, do you think it would be prudent for us to ask for a 21E?
Yeah, you can ask. You certainly can ask, and you can ask if basically before you start digging, did anyone investigate the site? Do you have a report on it?
Okay.
Um,
So we'll
so-
submit that to planning.
Yep. In the meanwhile, I'll check to see if there's a database on it. Oops.
Yeah, that property probably goes back to the late 1700s. I'm thinking like 1790, maybe that property goes back.
Yeah, for all the farmland, huh?
There was a house on the corner that was demoed, probably
Mhm.
right about where the bank is going to be built.
Correct.
There was a family homestead there. And then next to that was like an early vintage corrugated steel barn with a wood floor on a partial cement foundation, if I remember correctly, because there was storage for the sprayers underneath that building. So that would probably be approximately where the retail area of this project is going to be located. And
Yep.
both of those structures were torn down a number of years ago.
Yeah, so Tom and I will work on that to get to the planning board.
All right, excellent. Anything else on 1 North Ave? Joyce, any concerns on 1 North Ave?
No, I know the property though from back in the day.
Yeah, probably bought some apples.
Yep, we did. I used to walk down there with my son in the baby carriage and buy the apples and walk back home.
There you go. Tom?
So used as an orchard, and there was equipment staged on the property.
Correct.
So going with that, okay. All right. Yeah, we can
Thank you, Bob.
formulate a question response.
All right, thank you, Tom. I'll look forward to working with you on that.
Thank you,
Okay.
Tom.
Great,
Okay.
thanks, Tom.
Have a good night.
No
Night.
second shift.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, so we'll move on to continuance of tobacco regulations discussion. I called the Board of Ethics. I talked with an attorney and explained my history with the occupant, the applicant, and the attorney. I'm going to fill out a form that will be filed with the town clerk explaining the relationships, even though they're from many decades ago. So I am permitted to talk about this issue. And when it comes time for a vote, I'll decide whether or not I think it's prudent to vote on the particular issue. But as long as no one has any opposition, I'm free to discuss it.
I have none.
I have none.
All right. So where are we?
Update. Well, I think the two areas of conversation we've been involved with regard to tobacco regulations, one had been a discussion related to waiver language, or the potential or thought of possibly adding waiver language to regulations. I know in our last meeting, Joyce and I, who were here to talk about that, we didn't really come to a conclusion, but I think that the viewpoints were such that maybe waiver regulations may not be, at least I'll say from my perspective, may not be at this time a good thing to implement. I'll defer to Joyce to kind of give you her.
All right, I think I agree. I don't think that it would be. I don't think we need to have it there because this is a little bit different. I mean, there's never going to be another. It's never going to happen again because the rules now are different, but the rules at the time were in place, and so I think, we don't need the waiver language because it's not ever going to happen again.
And with regard to the general subject of waiver language, this would apply to really any situation that somebody might want to come and have a particular item that they might see in the tobacco regulations that they feel they may be able to possibly appeal, the waiver language would simply be designed to give the board, as provided by town council, an avenue of opportunity to discuss an appeal. Whereas the way it stands now in our regulation, we do not have any avenue of appeal built into what is in the structure. We don't have a section like in some of our regulations, we actually have a section we call variance. Well, we don't have that in our tobacco regulations. And essentially, waiver language would be similar to the allowance for discussing a variance that's written. So that topic is, in my view, it's broad-based. It's, you know, it could potentially cover a lot of different opportunities, and that's why I think at the moment I would not be inclined to go that avenue with tobacco regulations.
Based on town council's opinion on this issue, I would not want to go down the waiver road right now either. I don't feel it's necessary. And I feel if we were to try to even go down that road, it would have a bad look, because it's very hard to separate it from this particular applicant at this time. They sort of came together at the same time, and it was actually the applicant's attorney that started that discussion. So I wouldn't want it to have, a bad look.
Well, I don't, there's, something to be said for quote unquote the optic, but I thought it was a valid point to bring up. And if you take it and think about it in the broader sense, beyond how it originated in the discussion, how it could apply to anyone or any entity that might come forward to the Board of Health and want to try to appeal something that they saw in any section of the tobacco regulations. And essentially, or from an overall standpoint, the tobacco regulations are, in my view, designed as a guideline of enforcement for how tobacco should be sold, and the guidelines that go around that surround selling it properly, right? And so within that context, there are built-in penalties for not following the rules. And I would not want to allow or give an opportunity, not to say I don't want to give an opportunity, because I'm always open to discussing anything with anyone, right? But we have these created for a reason, because we want the entities out there to follow the guidelines, to sell the tobacco properly, to be making sure it's getting in the right hands, right? And when it doesn't happen, there's a penalty to be paid for that. And there's a sequence that would be followed, as we just recently had in the last 2 or 3 months, right? And I wouldn't want to be getting into waiving that, because it's, if you don't do this, then this is what's going to happen. Happens again, this is what's going to happen, so there's I believe that structure should stay in place. And that would be my concern in the waiver language, is that now someone could maybe start to look at those details and look for some sort of relief for that, which I then think takes away from the purpose of why it was done. Because I think we have a strong feeling about tobacco and making sure it gets just in the right hands, under the right conditions, at the time it should, right?
And in the past, when someone has violated a regulation, we always ask them, when they come before us, how can we help you? How can we help them comply? We offer additional training, we offer additional signage, we do everything we can to help them not violate again.
Right.
you know, and whatever it takes, that's what we try to do to prevent that next violation.
Right.
And I think that served us well.
Mhm.
Colleen is very, very good with trying to, you know, help our retailers,
Mhm.
make sure that they have everything they need and understand everything.
Yep.
I do like the current proposal to add some definition.
So let's take that as a separate discussion. So because we had two things here, we had waiver language discussion, and then we have this other element that I would like to treat as a separate piece. So, you know, if we're kind of in agreement on the waiver language topic, that at this time, whether we need to do a vote or whether it's just a view of the board as a whole or majority, that this is not the appropriate time to consider waiver language, or if we should vote to definitively say no waiver language to be incorporated into tobacco regulations. I don't know which is the better avenue to go with.
I'd like to get some advice from Colleen
Mhm.
as to whether or not how to formalize that.
Yep.
So that portion, waiver,
Yep.
why don't we put that aside?
Yep.
Until Colleen is at a meeting.
Yep.
And we can get her input on that and then decide how formally
We might need
take
to
that
go with it.
discussion.
Yeah, because technically it doesn't exist now. We may not need to necessarily take any actual action
Right.
because we don't have it now, but maybe to close the discussion. Something. How does
So-
that sound to you, Joyce?
Yeah, I agree.
So if you like, we can move on to that separate issue of adding definition.
Right. So the second topic that came about because of our discussion of tobacco regulations and waiver language has to do with an element that was seen that currently exists in our in our tobacco regulations. That has to do with a specific section that defines retail density and proximity. And in viewing those paragraphs that talk about that area, from my perspective, there's a bit of ambiguity in the phrasing. And in my mind, it actually goes to what actually was referenced in as a sample in waiver language from our town council with regard to intent. So in my view, I was seeing that those paragraphs did not specifically define the intent well enough so as to remove any ambiguity that's coming from those paragraphs that had to do with retail density and proximity as to what those paragraphs were designed to do. And hence, you know, we had put forth a proposal to town council, which we haven't heard back on yet, to get the legal viewpoint on making such an amendment change. So we're talking basically now of not waiver language, but we're looking at a specific context of our regulation that would, with the proposal, would actually, I believe, would remove ambiguity and specifically define when and how that start date was supposed to come into play with regard to its usage.
Joyce, any comments on Tom's proposal?
Well, I think I understand what he's saying. I think he's saying if we can just use an example of the person who had all of his ducks in a row and before our rule came into effect, that he doesn't have to adhere to that those rules. Am I thinking that correctly here?
Yes, that basically, at least in my view, and this is where I think each of us have to come to this a determination here. My intent was that as of January 1, 2024, any new business that would come before the town, or essentially before the planning board, with a site plan or a business plan for review and approval, those would be the entities that were intended for these elements to apply to.
Do we need to spell out planning board?
Well, so
And then my other question would be, sometimes these projects go before the planning board. Sometimes they never happen. Sometimes they happen 3-4 years down the road. Sometimes in the process of them happening, they're sold to another applicant. How do we cover all those bases?
well, I
Or
think,
do we have to?
well, I don't believe we have to. I think that the purpose of my desire to remove ambiguity all centers around what that start date and who that start date was supposed to apply to. So with regard to January 1, 2024, and my intent was it would apply to new businesses that would come forward as of January 1, 2024, and get with their site business plan that would be looked at and subsequently, if at all, be approved by the approving authority, which at this moment is, and it's always been the planning board. And that's what that requirement, that distance requirement, that was my intent anyways, to how to apply that distance requirement to those
You're
entities.
defining the start date.
Correct.
Right.
Specifically
Date
stating
that takes
who gets
effect.
affected by January 1, 2024. Right.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess, we'll wait for Karis's opinion.
Well, I would like to, well, Joyce, I know, is in the loop with what was submitted to Karis. And we haven't yet heard back from Karis yet, Joyce.
Right.
I provided a copy of something else to Alan tonight. And this is something that, it's an email that I put forth to the Massachusetts Association of Health Boards.
Uh-huh.
If you recall, that was another group that I wanted to seek an opinion from.
Right.
And as you know, the MAHB has been a longstanding organization that provides support and guidance to local boards of health in the state of Massachusetts.
Correct.
And they're very well versed on, I'll say, case history and what a local board of health should be doing, what they can do, what's appropriate for a local board to do. So what I had done is I'd sent an email to Cheryl Sparra. She's the executive director at the Massachusetts Association of Health Boards. And I basically, I don't have to read the whole email, but basically it's a presentation of the same thing that we presented to Karis in the email we sent to her. Basically outlining what is in place now and what the desire is to do by inserting the amended language into it. And I'll just read the last part of the email. So after showing her what's in place now in our tobacco regulations, and then showing her what would be the idea to, the proposed new language, I said the following. I said, as a board, we are of the understanding that from time to time, amendments to a set of regulations may be needed for various reasons, such as changes within a community, changes in state governance, and through periodic review of regulations to validate intent and application of the regulation, just to name a few. The basis for this proposed language amendment goes to the latter example cited. Upon review of the current language for the above referenced sections, a viewpoint emerged that spoke to the ambiguity of the current language and not being specific enough to speak to the intent of how it should be applied. The feeling is that making the suggested language amendment would be an appropriate and reasonable change to make in providing better clarity to the elements cited. In addition, there is a feeling that such a change only serves to clarify the intent without making a dramatic change to the regulation as a whole, and it would be our understanding that making such a change could happen in the course of a normal Board of Health meeting, as opposed to needing to hold a public hearing to propose such a change. I said it is our desire to get your, meaning the MAHB, viewpoint on this proposed change as it relates to the Board of Health's authority to make such a change, and as it relates to the legal footing of our board to implement such a change. So I had a great response. She responded back probably in about 25 minutes or so. So that was super. And I thanked her for such a speedy response. But her response was this: I understand your desire to make this change, and considering the fact that there is actually no legal requirement to hold a public hearing, while the MAHB cannot provide legal advice, I concur that you would not need to hold one to amend the regulation as suggested. The amendment just clarifies a way of measuring and would not affect anyone adversely. And that's kind of one of the key purposes here in making the amended language. But of course, as she points out, their organization cannot advise legally, which is why we also wanted to hopefully get, town council's take from that avenue. But so that was Cheryl's take from the MAHB perspective.
Yeah, great. That's great.
Yeah.
So
Anything else?
we're still stuck waiting.
What's that?
I said, we're still stuck waiting.
So at this point, if the viewpoint is that we do want to wait for Karis, then at this point we're kind of on hold, and hopefully we'll get that, reasonably soon,
All right.
so we can determine if we can, if there's any impediments here. Hopefully there wouldn't be.
All right, we'll move on to the next one, 147 Hartford Avenue East Tobacco Permit Review. I'm going to say there is no permit to review at this time.
Well, at this time, the permit stands without a status. It's been submitted, of course, but it has neither been approved nor denied. So at this point, that status, in my view at the moment, would remain unchanged, pending further information coming to us.
Joyce?
Yeah, I guess we're pretty stuck. I kind of think that, this is a one of, but it's not going to ever happen. It's not ever going to come up again, but, I guess we have to just wait. Not sure, but you know
All
what I'm
right.
saying? You know what I'm saying?
I gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll put one thing in front of the other and see where we end up. BOH admin updates, please.
Nothing new in the last 2 weeks, so I have nothing to add.
All right, and our health agent couldn't attend.
I do have her notes.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, that was the expectation put forth at our last meeting, so hopefully. I'm just kidding.
All right, so Colleen, the health agent's report for July 24, 2024. Septic concerns, 40 North Ave. Still working on scheduling a time to meet with the new owner. 10 Northbridge Street. We are continuing to monitor the property. It's an ongoing process, so no issues thus far. Housing concerns for 32 Hastings Street. We are working with the property owner. A percolation test permit has been filed. We also spoke with Mr. Nenart, and he advised that they will be installing a Presby system.
That's the Hood Plaza.
Hood Plaza, correct. Landfill. The access agreement has been signed by the parties, and we will schedule with the highway department as soon as the schedule permits.
All right, That's for the catch basin.
catch basin, yep. 55 Harvard Avenue West, a new septic plans have been filed and are under review. At MS Tire, that's on Uxbridge, that's next to the,
M&S?
M&S Tire, yeah,
Yeah.
it's on Uxbridge, it's next to the stove
Yeah.
place, pellet place.
Yeah, Fireside, Royal
Yeah,
Fireside.
Royal Fireside.
Yeah, Royal Thermal Fire Set.
She is addressing complaints regarding business and residential living. Supposedly there is somebody living on the premises that's not supposed to be.
Was there also something to do with they were kind of stacking the tires
I
inappropriately
thought that
again?
was resolved.
He was stacking them again,
Okay.
Yeah, there's-
but she is working with all departments to bring the property into compliance again, and she is in contact with the landlord or the property owner of the property. She was gonna go out there, I believe, tomorrow for an on-site visit. In the CBD THC, she is currently inspecting stores for compliance with the DPH directive that it cannot be sold within stores. And food establishments, she's very busy with the food trucks, and some of the establishments are up for their 6-month period for reinspection. And that is what she has.
I accept that.
You accept the nomination?
Just in general discussion with agents in the office.
She'll be in tomorrow, yeah.
Just make sure that what we're charging is covering our costs.
Mhm.
She seems to be spending a lot of time, and there's a lot of activity in that area. So, rather than find out when it's too late, I want to know if we're covering our expenses. She's putting a lot into it.
How would we, so,
We'd raise our fees if we're
But
not
then that
covering our
affects-
expenses.
okay. Well, I didn't know if if we're
And we'd be raising. our
focusing in on
fees
one
January.
issue to justify raising our fees because it would affect everybody. If we have one issue that's taking a long time
Yeah, but we're talking about food trucks in general,
in general.
and rather than have this discussion in December,
Yeah.
when we're in the rears, if we were prepared for it and we send our applications out, what, in November, October?
Yeah.
So we need to know now if we need to make an adjustment. We don't have the same health inspector arrangements that we've had in the past. So we're adjusting, to the new requirements to have a part-time health agent. And again, she's putting a lot into it. We need to make sure that we're covering our costs, just like we do when we have a septic system come before us that's not your normal run-of-the-mill septic system. We make sure that our fees are going to cover all the inspections and reviews for that particular system. Example, when we had the system put in down at the drive-in, it wasn't a
Wasn't a
standard
standard.
fee, was not going to cover doing that system properly.
Well, that goes to my point. What I was trying to get at was, for the most part, a food truck's a food truck. So are you saying that she's spending a lot of time with food trucks that are outside the normal standard of what we expect to happen in an inspection?
No, I'm saying that food inspections in general, along with our new fee structure for a health agent, we need to account for.
But we have our fees for the food, our fees for the food trucks, that's individual for every food truck.
Correct.
So irrespective of what, the arrangement is for her as an employed person of the town of Mendon. So that's why I was just kind of lost. It sounded like you were saying that maybe what she needs to do for these inspections per truck is beyond what we think is what we think we needed to account for.
I'm anticipating that our expenses over the last year and a half are increasing. I just want to make sure we're covered.
Well, yeah, but that goes to the question of what she's doing. I mean, she's getting paid X amount to do whatever task it is she needs to do as a health agent.
Mhm.
So we have these fee structures for all these different things that might fall under her area. So to me, it would come down to, do we feel that what she needs to do for a food truck inspection against the fee that we're charging is applicable?
Well, that's what I'm asking Jack to have a discussion with her. She's the one doing the work. She's the one putting in the time.
Right.
So I'm just in passing while she's in the office.
Yeah.
Hey, are we covering our expenses?
Okay.
She knows what we charge.
Yeah.
Because when we send out the applications in October.
Yeah.
And we set the rates or adjust as needed.
Yeah.
October's right down the road. I want to be prepared,
Okay.
not be in the rears.
Okay.
As with anything else, I mean, when we talk about the system that may be going in up at the old driving range.
Yeah.
We've already had discussions that the normal fee is not going to cover a specialized system like that.
No, but that would be what I would call a one-off. Whereas we're talking food trucks as a general everyday. So I wasn't quite understanding if you were kind of hinting that with what she's doing, what she's had to do for these food truck inspections is more than what we would think she had to do based on the fee that we're assessing to the food trucks. That's what I was trying to.
Yeah. And I'm, like I said, I'm just trying to make sure that we're covering it.
Okay, so you are looking at it as a per unit thing, per time spent per unit for a truck.
Right.
That time is
different
matching.
different things have come up. I know there was a discussion about some of the food trucks that are being towed, that the tow vehicle needs to be separate from the trailer. So I think we're updating and getting more current with what's going on in the food truck world. So
Okay,
I don't know, without having a conversation with Colleen, as to whether these are new things or things that we're catching
okay,
that we didn't catch before.
yep, okay, I see.
I mean, fortunately, we haven't had any problem food trucks, which is really good.
Yeah, yeah.
But again, good time to have a discussion, and the same discussion we could have with Steve Donatelli.
Okay.
You know, hey, you know, a lot of extra inspections. I mean, look at the time being spent on some of the systems that we know that are in failure.
Right.
That they haven't even submitted a new plan for yet.
Right.
And we're going out there, or Colleen is going out there, making sure that, you know, especially the ones that are real close to the sidewalk on North Ave.
Yep.
That, you know, they're paying extra attention to these things. So,
Well, so with regard to Steve though, Steve's in a little different situation than Colleen as far as how he's paid. He sends us an invoice for his work. So I would think we could use his invoicing against the work he's done to determine, like, if, you know, related to a particular job site, which I'm sure he references on his invoice, is the invoice that we paid out for ABC property, did the, you know, application fees that were assessed cover his invoice?
right. And I think you do that.
Right, what I'm saying is we have that data.
Right. But having a conversation with Steve, he's the one that's out there, and say, hey, you know, are we covering our expenses? He would have an idea. Hey, no, you know, I'm finding I'm doing a lot of extra inspections.
That he's not billing us for?
Well, no, even though he's billing us for them, they're not the normal. I inspect the hole, I inspect the gravel, I inspect the system before it's covered over.
Yeah.
And then you know, there's like 3 basic inspections.
Yeah.
Well, if he's doing monitoring before the system is even put in,
Mhm.
it's got to be getting covered somewhere.
Right, so that's my point.
So I want to make sure it's being covered.
Right, but that's my point. We have that data. He's got that on the invoices he has in hand.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. It's not information we should have to go get. He's got it, right?
All right, we'll talk about it next meeting. with
That's all
Colleen.
my point is. It's
Okay,
not like
I
we
ju-
have
I
to
just-
have, it's not like Colleen's in a little different spot here with regard to how she's compensated and what she's covering.
Mhm.
Like with Tom Ryder, same thing. He's a contractor. He sends us an invoice for services for properties. We match up those invoices against those properties that he's done work for. we have, I mean, we have the data. It's just a matter of pulling it up and, you know, doing a comparison. That's, you know what I'm saying? That was my,
Yeah, I just want to, I would like to know before we send out the permits.
Yep.
If there are any adjustments that we have to make. And to your point, we're not trying to make money, but we certainly want to cover
oh, absolutely.
all our
Oh,
expenses.
yeah.
And every year.
Yep.
Things change.
Yep.
We want to make sure that we're ahead of it.
Right.
So that's all I'm asking.
Thank you.
I don't
Not to
talk.
put more work on Jack. I'm just saying.
Well, you know, it's one of those things that we'd have the conversation with Colleen right now. If she, you know, were here or if Steve was here, we'd have the conversation with him.
Right.
You know? Okay.
Okay, cool.
Joyce, anything on that?
Joyce?
I didn't hear what he said. What did you say?
You broke up on us.
Something's
I think
happening
a
here.
satellite moved.
Yeah, that's what happened. You broke up on me, so I didn't hear what you said either, so.
All right. My apologies. I was just, asking.
I
if,
knew what you were, knew what you were talking about, but I
Okay.
didn't know what your last comment was.
All right. I guess my last comment would be, do you have any comments on what I said, the discussion that Tom and I had about covering our fees?
Oh, I understand exactly what you're talking about. I get it. Yep. I think that it's important to do. Are we quitting here? I don't.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Joyce is, Joyce is on
Okay.
board.
Next topic.
All right.
All right. Topics not anticipated within 48 hours.
Do not have any.
Tom,
I do not have any of those.
Joyce.
No, I do not.
All right. I don't have anything either. Good and welfare for the board. Tom,
Anybody?
I did have a couple. I would call them these community service little announcements. You know, the board gets notified of, most recently with what's, because of the summertime, the updates with regard to West Nile virus, EEE. So we've had, of course, this is the time of year when the little mosquitoes get a little more active, and they do a lot more testing. So last week we had a couple of reports came in. There's been positive West Nile virus mosquito samples detected. And they've been detected in various communities, Raynham, Clinton, East Longmeadow, Natick, Fairhaven, Dartmouth, Seekonk, Attleboro, Dracut, Worcester, and Marlborough, as well as, which is geographically the most important to us, is Blackstone. So they've been
Right.
positive. Yeah. So just a general heads up to folks, be aware and take the good precautions that we should all take with regard to the little critters. And then
And don't let standing water be outside.
oh, absolutely, that's a key one, you know.
Correct.
Anything that pools water, right? Try to get rid of that and
Right.
mitigate it. Yeah. And the only other one I had was came from should have come from State Public Health. They wanted to inform us, announcing their first confirmed measles case in Massachusetts. It's 2020.
Correct.
Yes.
I missed that one.
So that came in last week on the 18th, on Thursday. We know it's on the rise.
It makes me crazy that people aren't doing their immunization.
Yeah. So if anyone needs more info, they can go to www.mass.gov for more details. And that's all I have on that area.
Well, you covered what I was going to cover with the West Nile virus. Joyce, do you have anything?
I would ask if we could go back, since we do have Joyce, do we want to go back to 3A?
No,
Maybe we want to say the
that's
next
a-
meeting.
Yeah,
Technical
that was that
difficulty.
Lake Nipmuc.
Yeah.
I can give you a report about that. We didn't have a quorum, so we couldn't meet.
Oh,
We sat and talked for a bit, but then we had to leave because we didn't have a quorum.
okay.
All right. Anything else, folks? Next meeting is going to be
August 14th.
7:30.
7:30?
I did have one housekeeping to ask.
Yeah.
In our website format,
Mhm.
I wondered if we could add a couple of things to the front page,
Of our website, the BOH website?
the BOH website.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as what we tell folks, what the Board of Health does
Yeah.
and responsibilities. So, I have these three, I can give them to you on offline.
Yeah.
And just to it just kind of covers the whole, solidifies the whole group of what we do. Yeah, cool, awesome. That was it.
All right, folks. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Joyce, for
Thank you,
joining.
Joyce. Have a wonderful vacation.
Thanks. You know what? I just have one thing to discuss that's not about Board of Health stuff, but it is, I think it's an important thing to